question.
Or thoughts, or reactions, or anything. Yes, sir.
I have a question. So what made you choose Shackleton?
It chose me. It chose me. We, Jim and I had put together a program for the Boeing Company based on the Lewis and Clark expedition. Boeing Leadership Center is located in St. Louis, Missouri, right on the river where Lewis and Clark started their journey together. And so a lot of the Leadership Center there is based on Lewis and Clark. And we had put this program together based on the Lewis and Clark expedition, which was really well received. But Jim and I were working with a young actor that was going to be new to our company from the St. Louis area, and he got caught in traffic and was late getting to the Leadership Center for his first rehearsal. And in the lobby of the Leadership Center, there was Alfred Lansing's book called Endurance. So while I was waiting for the actor, I started looking through the book. And then once the actor arrived, I kept looking through the book. And I told Jim that day, I said, Jim, the minute we're done with Lewis and Clark, we're going into Shackleton next. And that was in 2005, and it took us a year to build this program because it takes a year to do all the research and to get these characters into your nervous system so that you can have the open forum and answer truthfully. So a year later, we delivered it for the first time to BP.
So what were the qualities you saw in that book in Shackleton that made you want to do this program?
If you read anything about him, if you read any of the books that have been written, or if you read any of Shackleton's journals or any of the journals of the men, you'll want to study him more. Just some of when I read how he handled the dogs, I said, I mean, how brilliant is this guy? How brilliant was he to simply float out the concept of destroying the dogs, let the men go through all their emotion, and then come to him with the solution. And I just learned so much from Shackleton that as he was teaching me about leadership, I had to find a way to bring that to life somehow. And I've got great partners to help me do that. So we put the team together and said, how do we do this? The only issue was we like to be a little bit more balanced. It's all this presentation is so Shackleton heavy, but really it was really his decisions or his leadership choices that really made the expeditions succeed, the survival expeditions succeed. So it's a little unbalanced, but we live with that. Hopefully it's okay with you guys.
I'd like to understand better the Captain Scott portion at the end of the distribution of opium tablets and how it relates to the Shackleton story and what you were trying to do with that as a mechanism at the end. Because it would strike me that that sort of runs counter to the rest of the story. I realize we left it with, this is what I thought of him and this is what was in his heart, but kind of lost me right at the end here with distribution of tablets to facilitate suicide.
Okay, we were hoping, we don't want to tell you too much. We were hoping that you would want to investigate both men a little bit further. We also needed to have kind of an emotional, if you will, emotional moment for Shackleton to just show that he wasn't this perfect guy. So the end of Act 1, when he loses his temper with Peabody, we wanted really to show that he could have those moments of anger and anguish and despair, and that he would also be responsible to it, because he was always responsible to his own behavior, which was great. He didn't put himself on any pedestals as well. Plus, when we designed this program for General Mills, and pardon me guys for doing all the talk, but we were told that by Mike Davis and Kevin Wilde and really the learning organization, that legacy was a key point for General Mills' leadership. And Mike Davis wanted us to find a legacy relationship between Scott and Shackleton, which existed. But there was also controversy surrounding Scott's death as well. Whether it was created by the media or not is up to you to decide. So we really used the Scott character as a foil character. Scott, as Mark's character says at the beginning, was a military man. He belonged to the Royal Navy. He had very little flexibility as far as the way he could command and lead. We wanted you to see that contrast, if you will.
But it's also important that Shackleton effectively continued his work. I mean, they were rivals in some sense,
Yeah.
but he was also passing on the baton to a certain extent. So I think Shackleton felt a responsibility, particularly, and they were very different men and very different results, because Captain Scott made it to the South Pole, but he died on the way home.
Yeah.
Shackleton did not achieve his goal, but he got all of his men home safe. So it's a very different, there are a lot of variables there, but...
So if that didn't come clear to you, Tom, then that's our fault and mostly mine, because we were supposed to be able to draw that. You were supposed to see those parallels and make those connections and associations.
I just wanted to understand it better because I knew it was a mechanism.
Yeah, it
So I wanted
was.
to make sure I was getting from it. I understood the contrast-mentor relationship, and I understood I shouldn't be distributing opium pills to my team.
Yeah, try not to do that.
Not without the doctor's order.
Unless you're down, 90 miles from the South Pole, there's no hope.
It's occasionally dark, I'll tell you.
I think that there are the two things that I see as most applicable to General Mills with regard to that Scott Shackleton thing is, first of all, the understanding, the realization that no one style of leadership is necessarily the right one or the only one or the best one. We all have our own personalities, we all have our own backgrounds, we all have our own approaches. That does not mean that we have to be a good leader or that we can't be a good leader. Different style. Second thing is, there's a huge difference between legacy and cloning. If I am going to be part of somebody's legacy of leadership, it doesn't mean I have to be exactly like that person. And if I'm going to leave my own legacy in an organization, that doesn't mean I expect those coming behind me to do things exactly like I do. Okay? So there's a huge difference between legacy and cloning. I think those are the two key points I would emphasize.
The thing I would add to your question, Tom, is I think you think about what we spent our day talking about. We talked a lot about invest, value, stretch, and you saw a lot of that here. We didn't end up spending a lot of time during our day talking about legacy. And I think when we first started the program, we thought we might spend more of the content time talking about legacy, and we didn't. And I think maybe that might have changed the perspective on this if we had spent time in the classroom talking about that a little bit more.